Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the AM News and Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. And the crisis rocking the People's Democratic Party took another fairy turn as the functional National Executive Committee loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, ratified the expulsion of Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State, and Dauda Lawal of Zamfara State. The committee also expelled former chairman of the Board of Trustees, Senator Adolphus Wabara, former national vice chairman of the party, Bode Judge, and the recently elected party national chairman, Kabiru Turaki SAN. The move comes just days after the controversial PDP National Convention held in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, which saw Wike and the loyalists expelled from the party. The leadership crisis in the People's Democratic Party PDP intensified as the Ambassador Kabiru Tarimo Turaki-led faction briefly gained entrance into the National Secretariat in Abuja, but was later forced out, while the Senator Samuel Anyanwu-led group had firm control of the complex. Our political correspondent Ubong Usoro reports.
Tensions remained high throughout the day as the PDP national headquarters, Wadata Plaza, as security operatives struggled to manage the standoff between the two rival factions. Earlier in the day, the Anyanwu-led faction arrived first, took possession of key offices, and announced that it was preparing for its scheduled meetings. Hours later, the Turaki-led faction made its move. Members of the group gained access into the secretariat and announced that their National Working Committee meeting would commence immediately.
I want to call on President Trump. What is at stake is not just genocide against Nigerian Christians. He should come and save democracy in Nigeria. Democracy is under threat. I'm calling on all other developed nations, all advanced democracies, come and save Nigeria. Come and save democracy. Because I cannot understand how a serving minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will be leading talks, armed talks, and then with the active connivance or support of the police to come and create mayhem here.
But the situation changed following a heated confrontation inside the building. Security operatives intervened and escorted members of the Turaki group out of the secretariat, insisting that the situation was becoming unsafe. The Anyanwu faction maintained that their mandate remains vital and valid, describing the Turaki factions as an unlawful attempt to disrupt the day's activity. Crowds of supporters from both sides remain outside, chanting and singing as police, DSS, and civil defense officers tightened security to prevent clashes. After being escorted out, the Turaki-led camp announced that it would reschedule its meeting for tomorrow, insisting that it remained the legitimate leadership produced at the Ibadan convention. The Turaki camp vows to return tomorrow to assert its authority. Ubong Usoro for Global Television News.
The leadership crisis in the People's Democratic Party PDP has intensified as the Ambassador Kabiru Tarimo Turaki-led faction briefly gained entrance into the National Secretariat in Abuja, but was later forced out while the Senator Samuel Anyanwu-led group had firm control of the complex. Our political correspondent Usoro brings us the report.
Tensions heightened earlier this morning at Wadata Plaza as security operatives cordoned off major entrances to the PDP headquarters, following reports that rival factions were mobilizing supporters for parallel meetings. Arriving at the venue early, Samuel Anyanwu said his group remains the authentic leadership of the party and no amount of intimidation or internal sabotage will stop them from carrying out their constitutional responsibilities, adding that the PDP must be rescued from impunity and return to its founding values.
Well, this is laughable. Because first of all, there's no convention. No convention. What makes a convention? One, as the national secretary of the party in our constitution, it's very clear. 36A, for every convention, the national secretary will state the affairs of the party. That's a convention. Two, every communication from the convention or negativity is communicated to the members of the party by my office. Three, there should be a 21 days communication to INEC that I want to hold a convention. And I saw such letter conference to INEC. And of course, that's why.
Shortly after his arrival, members of the Nyawu-led faction moved into key offices within the secretariat, insisting that the party structure is firmly under their control based on recent internal discussions and court interpretations. On the other hand, the Turaki-led group dismissed the move as unlawful occupation, arguing that the Ibadan Convention produced a legitimate leadership that must not be undermined. They accused the opposing faction of working with external influences to destabilize the party. Supporters from both sides gathered around the secretariat in large numbers, expressing fears that widening divisions could further weaken the PDP ahead of major political engagement. Security operatives maintained a heavy presence to prevent clashes, even as both factions insist that they will forge ahead with their planned meetings. Ubong Usoro for Global Television News.
APC members and all supporters have called on Nigerians to support and encourage President Bola Tinubu. They declare full support, citing major achievements recorded under the Renewed Hope agenda. Again, Ubong Usoro reports.
There was a gathering of party supporters, senior government officials, and pro-Tinubu coordinators in Abuja as the all-registered APC North-South Progressive ARANSP reaffirmed their endorsement of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu ahead of the 2027 general elections. Speaking at the event, Chief Chibuna Obawike, national chairman, highlighted significant accomplishments in housing, where thousands of affordable units are being delivered nationwide. Health, with renewed investment in primary healthcare and subsidized treatment for vulnerable Nigerians, and education, with the full rollout of the student loan scheme for children of low-income families.
Having seen where Nigeria is and progress made so far by the Renewed Hope administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, it is incumbent on Nigerians, our party men and women, to rally around and support his re-election come 2027. The way forward for Nigeria is consolidation of the Renewed Hope agenda for progress, development, and prosperity.
The group also pointed to improvements in agriculture, infrastructure, and food security, describing the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway and other major road projects as evidence of a forward-looking administration. On the economy, they maintained that the removal of the fuel subsidy and the unification of the exchange rate have begun yielding results, with inflation gradually moderating and investor confidence rising. Barrister Murtala Kankai, APC National Legal Advisor, representing the APC National Chairman, further commended strides in security, citing better coordination among security agencies, civil service reforms, which have introduced digital operations, and foreign policy, which they say have restored Nigeria's global standing.
As you are aware, and I have said it yesterday during the Women Forum, that is why the APC is now going around to ensure that we amend the constitution of the All Progressive Congress, so that at least organizations like yours will be given prominence, will be registered, will be recognized.
The group concluded that Nigeria is on a transformational path and urged party members nationwide to mobilize aggressively for President Tinubu's re-election in 2027. Ubong Usoro for Global Television News.
The Senate has urged the federal government to recruit about 100,000 personnel into the military to fight the rising killings and adoptions of people in the country. This followed a motion of public importance sponsored by Senator Yahaya Abdullahi, APC Kebbi North. Topsy Gimba has the details.
Senator Yahaya Abdullahi expressed worry about the abduction of 25 students in the government girls' school in Maga, Kebbi State, killing the vice principal in the attack and injuring many. He called for adequate security to be provided in communities while urging the relevant security personnel to ensure the girls are rescued. Senator Yahaya Abdullahi urged his colleagues to support the motion.
Maybe by the time the Senate, in its wisdom, agrees with the second reading and it goes to the committee, I think it will be very, very important for us to consider putting the MOFI together with the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Supporting the motion, former Senate President Ahmed Lawan emphasized that immediate steps must be taken to ensure the safe return of the adopted children. He also proposed that the Senate should find out the funds set aside during the Buhari administration to manage the Safe School program.
Then work with Global Business Coalition for Education was also in Nigeria to work with our leaders to ensure that we created safe education and learning environments in our schools.
Contributing to the prayers of the motion, Senator Adam Oshiomhole, APC, Edo North, urged the federal government to recruit at least 100,000 personnel into the military to assist to secure the entire country.
The capture in our prayer that we want additional 100,000 men and women to be recruited and trained and equipped and well kitted in the Nigerian Army to be able to cover the increasing number of population and the fact that we now have more schools that we used to have in 1960, in 1970, in 1980.
In response to the debate, Senate President Godswill Akpabio condemned the attack and urged the federal government and security agencies to prioritize the apprehension of the criminals and ensure the safe rescue of the students.
That we do set up an ad hoc committee to look into the Safe School program funding and expenditure and whether or not it has achieved its purpose in view of this current incident of the kidnap of our school children and the killing of this vice principal.
The Senate observed a minute silence in honor of the late vice principal, late Brigadier General Uba, soldier killed by terrorists for the weekend, and other victims of the attack, while calling for greater involvement for state governors in securing schools, stressing that the need for a collective effort to address the growing insecurity in the country. Topsy Gimba, reporting for Global Television News.
The House of Representatives has raised fresh alarm over worsening insecurity in Zamfara State, following a series of deadly attacks by armed bandits across multiple communities. During the plenary, lawmakers noted that the Constitution clearly placed security and welfare of citizens as the primary responsibility of the government, but insisted that ongoing attacks show a dire situation requiring urgent action. National Assembly correspondent Aniete Patrick reports.
In the last 2 weeks alone, heavily armed bandits reportedly invaded more than a dozen towns and villages in Zamfara, killing at least 10 people, adopting 130 others and imposing an illegal tax of 100 million naira in already vulnerable communities. In a matter of urgent public importance, Representative Kabir Amadu notes that the attackers, who operate freely on motorcycles, are said to move from one community to another for weeks without resistance and have recorded multiple killings, with farmers targeted on their farmlands. Lawmakers warn that the violence has created a severe humanitarian crisis, leaving residents without food, health care, or security, and pushing entire communities further into poverty. Sponsor of the motion, Amadu, called on President Bola Tinubu to urgently adopt a new security strategy and direct massive operations by the military to end the killings.
The worry is that this demand for 100 million naira in taxes is not only unjust but also unattained for a population already suffering from the loss of life and properties.
However, an amendment proposed during debates by Yusuf Gadi advised that instead of relocating defense chiefs to Zamfara, they should simply be directed to launch extensive operations in affected areas.
The prayer should just request the Minister of Defense, all of them, including the service chiefs, to direct for a robust operation to take place within the affected areas in Zamfara State and other part of the country.
The House adopted the motion and mandated its committees on Defense, Army, Navy, Air Force, National Security and Legislative Compliance to ensure full implementation. Meanwhile, a bill for an act to establish Federal School of Nursing and Midwifery, Uturu, Abia State, and for related matters, HB 2006, by Amobi Oga passed for second reading.
For a bill for an act to establish a Federal School of Nursing and Midwifery, Uturu, Abia State, and for related matter, HB 2006.
Also a bill for an act to establish National Tomato Production, Processing and Research Institute, Shanono, Kano State, and for related matters, HB 2356, by Yusuf Badu, passed second reading too. From the National Assembly, Aniete Patrick, reporting for Global TV News.
The House of Representatives has ordered an investigation into the establishment and governance of the Museum of West African Arts in Benin City, following concerns over foreign influence and the opaque management of Nigeria's cultural assets. The resolution came during Tuesday's plenary, which also witnessed heated exchange over electoral laws and committee sittings. National Assembly correspondent Aniete Patrick reports.
The House of Representatives has considered an urgent motion moved by Iyawe Esosa and 5 co-sponsors, raising an alarm over what lawmakers describe as questionable ownership and governance structures behind the Museum of West African Arts in Edo State.
The House is cognizant that the Nigerian's cultural heritage represents not only a priceless legacy, but also an instrument of national identity, diplomacy, and economic potential.
Lawmakers argued that the museum, originally conceived as the destination for repatriated Benin bronze and other artifacts, may be drifting away from Nigeria's sovereign control, despite heavy international funding and partnerships from global institutions.
If care is not taken, and we get this wrong, Nigeria as a country will be losing in area that have to do with non-oil.
The House expressed concern over donor agreements, land allocations, and what they called opacity surrounding funding sources and management structures. Members warned that without clarity, Nigeria's cultural heritage risks exploitation. Meanwhile, an ad hoc committee will now investigate the museum's legal status, donor involvement, financial implications, and measures to safeguard Nigeria's ownership of its artifacts. The committee is expected to report back in 4 weeks. Shortly after, the leader of the House, Professor Julius Ihovere, raised a personal explanation cautioning committee chairmen against scheduling meetings during plenary sittings.
I thought it was important that in as much as we appreciate the commitment of our members, particularly those that are chairing statutory committees, to give us the maximum of their efforts,
is really timely and very important. You can see the scanty nature, particularly in the mornings when we start plenary. It's really embarrassing.
Speaker Abbas Tajuddin backed the warning, lamenting the growing absence of members during morning sessions. The session briefly turned tense when Peter Uzokwe attempted to raise what he described as a critical issue concerning Nigeria's electoral laws.
Sit down, Honorable Ifeanyi. Sit down, please.
It is so serious that it is damaging our reputation outside. And let me read it out.
Honorable Ifeanyi shouldn't be talking with anger. This is a simple issue. You should be matured enough to know that this is a serious place.
Despite repeated interventions from other lawmakers citing constitutional rights and House rules, the Speaker insisted that all electoral questions be reserved for a dedicated session scheduled for next week. From the National Assembly, Aniete Patrick, reporting for Global TV News.
The Executive Secretary of TED Fund, Aksoni Echono, says private universities are performing better than public universities because the cost of education is more effectively shared in private institutions. He made the remark at the 13th convocation ceremony of Nile University of Nigeria, describing the school as one of the most sought after in the country. Global TV correspondent reports. The Executive Secretary of TechFund, Aksoni Echono, delivered the convocation lecture at Nile University 13th convocation ceremony in Abuja. Echono praised Nile University for its rapid growth, noting that it remains one of Nigeria's fastest rising institutions. He also emphasized the relevance of the lecture topic, redefining the Nigerian education system for the 21st century workforce, calling it central to strengthening the nation's education sector.
And as a country, there should be a shared acceptance that education is so important that a significant amount of our national wealth should be committed to education. Because when you give good education to your child, you don't need to worry about that child in later life, because it is the best investment you can give, and the returns on those investments are lifelong.
Echono stressed that education is crucial to nation building, especially in a global era where knowledge-based innovation commands high value in the marketplace.
The integration of technology into the education system has evidently transformed how knowledge is delivered and consumed globally. By embedding technology and entrepreneurship into the nation's educational framework, Nigeria will be able to prepare its youth for global competitiveness and develop a workforce capable of driving innovation and sustainable growth.
In a welcome address, the Vice-Chancellor of Nile University of Nigeria, Professor Dili Dogo, acknowledged the dignitaries present at the event held at the university's conference hall.
Convocation lectures are very important because as graduates do graduate, we always find somebody to shine the light, a guiding light, to help focus them as to the journey ahead and bring out areas that require attention. Thank you and God bless you.
He noted that the integration of technology into the education system has transformed how knowledge is delivered and consumed around the world. You're watching the live broadcast of AM News and Global Television. The news returns after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back from that break. Now to the world of business, where the Benue State government is taking major steps towards full mechanization of agriculture through a new public-private partnership aimed at promoting modern farming and training farmers in equipment assembly and maintenance. Governor Hyacinth Alia made this known during a visit to the Benue State Agro-Business and Mechanization Center, where he inspected newly procured farm machinery designated to boost productivity and strengthen food security across the state. And on the foreign scene, South Africa says the surprise arrival of 153 Palestinians on a plane last week indicated a clear agenda to cleanse Palestinians out of the Gaza Strip and West Bank. The group landed in Johannesburg on a chartered flight on Thursday without departure stamps from Israel in their passports. And finally, to the world of sport, where President Bola Tinubu has urged the Super Eagles to shift their full attention to the 2026 African Cup of Nations in Morocco, urging the team to recover quickly from Sunday's World Cup playoff defeat to the Democratic Republic of Congo. In a statement issued by his special advisor on information and strategy, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, the president said the team must now focus on all efforts on the Cup of Nations after narrowly missing out on the place at the 2026 FIFA World Cup for the second consecutive cycle. Nigeria's qualification hopes were extinguished in Rabat after a tense match ended 1-1 in extra time, with Democratic Republic of Congo edging the Eagles 4-3 on penalty to move into the Interconfederation playoff. And that's the size of the AM news on Global Television this morning. But before we go, let's remind you that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and StarTimes channel 276. And endeavor to follow us on all our social media platforms now showing on your screen using @Global TV NG. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Many thanks for watching.